Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Divorce Force podcast. This is the first of many in a series. We're so glad that you're here and truly appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. This is a safe and supportive place. The goal of this time is to create education, clarity, and guidance through what can be one of the most challenging seasons in life. Before we begin, I want you to know that you are welcome to remain completely anonymous. You can keep your camera off and choose not to display your name, but please feel comfortable in engaging in whatever way that feels right for you. Our mission here is to, of course, get education to you, but you also to have a safe place to be able to just listen, and if that's all you can do, or to ask questions if you choose that as well. Tonight's session will be approximately 1 hour. Our focus is on a very important topic, and it's about if you're contemplating divorce, what are some tips and strategies and key things to be aware of as you move forward or before you move forward. Even if you're someone that's in a divorce that, maybe you're in the middle of it, sometimes getting some of this information helps you not to make poor decisions while you're in this overload of things. You're not alone in asking questions, and our goal is to help you navigate the process with greater confidence and awareness and support. We brought together a team of professionals who offer a unique perspective to help you look at this from every angle. We will, as we do these podcasts, we'll have guest speakers. Tonight we have Nathan Dowell. He's our expert in divorce. He's actually out in Colorado, so if you're in a different state, that's okay. We won't do anything specific to the state, but just know that he'll give you kind of general guidance and general ideas. He will not be offering you divorce advice because, of course, he can't, but you can hire him anytime. Then we have Karen Urak, and Karen is one of those people that you can't help but love because she's so kind in the way that she walks people through divorce. And so she's our certified divorce coach, very expert, has been a paralegal for a lot of years. You'll get to know more about her as she speaks. Then we have Rachel Dimian. She's our certified divorce real estate expert. Many times as you go through divorce, you think about the house, but you don't really know what to think about and how to navigate divorce and figure out, what things go together. Rachel has a heart for people. She's been through a divorce. She has a desire to have people not make those kinds of mistakes. She's also very much a neutral third party as you're navigating divorce. So that's very nice to have. Next, we have me. I'm a financial educator. I am divorce specific because I have gone through a divorce. What got me in this industry was 100% because I wish someone would have done for me what we're offering here. So we're super excited that you guys are here tonight. Throughout tonight's conversation, we're going to cover emotional preparation and mindset, how to gather and organize the right information, understanding and structuring your financial picture, building the right professional support team. It doesn't have to be us. We're just giving you ideas. And important considerations if you have children. Our intention is to give you practical insights that you can use immediately or later, help you to avoid common mistakes that can lead to unnecessary stress, cost, or long-term impact. We also will be doing this podcast every month, and I'll cover that at the end, but we're going to start, and I'm excited for you guys to be here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Welcome, everyone. So, are you really emotionally prepared for divorce? If anyone answered yes to that question, they're lying. I think one of the hardest steps, if not the hardest, is to recognize the marriage is over. Whether you want the divorce or not, knowing that your life is changing dramatically and you're going to have to rebuild, is a terrifying thing. All 4 of us on this group have been divorced, and I can guarantee you every one of us has felt something terrifying, either at the beginning of the process, during, or even after the process. So recognizing the relationship and being able to say we're getting divorced is a big step. It sets you going forward, but it's an important step to really recognize and sit in for a minute and really wrap your head around. We don't expect you to understand the process. I'll tell you, as a paralegal and as a divorce coach, I get so many calls with people saying to me, first thing out of their mouth is, I have no clue what I'm doing. I wasn't prepared for this. We don't expect you to be prepared for it. Nobody's sitting at their honeymoon on their lounge chair, Googling how to separate assets once married. nobody's prepared. And if somebody expects you to be, bye. They're not, don't even listen to that. This is something that nobody prepares for. You think you're going to be married forever. And a lot of times it does come as a surprise. So we're not expecting that. I've yet, things you can do though to prepare once you know this is happening is, think about your marriage, think about your partner, think about, are you going to need an attorney? Do you have a lot of assets? Is there going to be a need for a financial person? These are the things you can start off with to get prepared. Do you think you're going to need a coach, somebody who can help you and keep you guided through this whole process? These are questions you should be asking yourself. Take a minute and also look at how you handle stressful situations. Are you a quick reactor? Or are you somebody who puts their head in the sand? That's important to recognize and understand, not only with yourself, but with your spouse. Share that with these people that are going to help you through this process. It's helpful information. Be transparent. I tell people all the time, that's so important. Nobody wants to hear about it 10 months down the road. Be transparent. Tell it all to the people who are helping you. When I say your people, I mean this team that we're talking about is necessary. Protect your mental health. I can't say this enough. Learn what calms you. I don't care if it's playing badminton. I don't care if it's doing yoga. I don't care, whatever, listening to music, dancing. Find whatever it is that de-stresses you and start doing it. Start doing it now. 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. If you can do it every day, people say, oh, I don't have time. You do, because you sit and scroll all the time on your, help you later down the road. This is a stressful situation. You're gonna need a release. Find out what that is and start implementing it. Realistic expectations. Wow. This one, I get asked, I get this all the time. How long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost me? Realistic expectation is we don't know the answer to that. It's too soon. Some people it takes years to get divorced. Other people it takes months. It just depends. Every divorce is different. So you have to understand that it's going to take time and there is a process to it. So, and you can't rush the process. Another thing too to know is that you're going to have to exchange financial information. People all the time are wanting to get out of doing that for whatever reasons. You're not going to. You're going to have to wrap your head around, we are going to get financial disclosures. You may not know much about the finances, but you will by the end of this. Things to remember. We're going to talk more about this in June, but start researching what you're going to need, what you want. How do you see this divorce happening? And surround yourself with your cheerleaders in your life. Not every friend is going to be a great friend through this divorce. You are going to have people who want to sit in your sadness puddle and not dance with you under the rainbow. You can go to the sadness puddle, but I don't want you sitting there, and I don't want friends. Those are the friends who want to talk crap about your spouse and want to talk about the divorce all the time. That's not healthy in this situation. You're going to go to the sadness puddle, but I want you out of it. And I want you with people who are positive. So start thinking about what friends you might have to put on pause for a little bit so you can get through this emotional state that you're getting ready to go through. Also, start thinking about how you make decisions. Is it with your heart and your emotions, or is it with your head and logic? You do not want to make decisions with your heart and emotions that are going to change the rest of your life. There's nothing wrong with putting something on pause and saying, I need to wait and think about this for a minute. In fact, to me, that shows strength. So know that you can take a break, because things are going to come at you sometimes a lot. And then there's going to be silent moments that you just sit in. Have all those. Don't rush it. Think about it. And a coach can help you through all that as well. And super important, give yourself grace. I mean, this is something you may not have prepared for, you didn't think about, whatever happened to you. Give yourself grace. Give your spouse grace. I know that's hard to do in the midst of all this, but the more you show kindness and understanding, the better this process is going to be for you. So pace yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be moments where you're going to wish it was over. We've all been there, and it will be over. It doesn't go on forever.
Oh, you went through those slides. Just tell me when to change the slide. I apologize.
No worries.
She
No
had it all
worries.
memorized. Nathan and Rachel, do you guys have anything else you want to add to that? Because all of you in your profession are going to have some sort of little tips and tricks in those two areas. Like, what are some things that you recommend either add to or share a story that you might have?
When it comes to separating emotions from decisions, that is huge when it comes to the house, because oftentimes, you know, that house, that's your stability, that's your home base, that's what you know. And when you have all of this other turmoil and upheaval, you want something to be constant, which I totally get that. But at the same time, we need to take into consideration that your income, your household income, is no longer going to be what it once was. And are you able to afford the home on your own? If you are, great, let's keep you in that house. But if you're not, let's find out early so that we don't waste a whole bunch of money fighting over the house when no one can keep it anyway.
So yeah, there's talking about reasonable expectations, setting reasonable expectations for yourself. Karen, you were touching on obviously some emotional components, but you're also touching on just the process itself. Obviously, you've helped people through the whole divorce process on a number of occasions, and having an expectation you're going to be done in 3 months may be unreasonable. Having an expectation that you're going to get through it with not a lot of cost may be unreasonable. But I also wanted to just kind of reiterate what you were saying about the emotional component, because it's huge to just have reasonable expectations on an emotional level. You know, frankly, no two people start the divorce process in the same way, and you're going to be at a you're going to be at a different level, a different starting point. Maybe you are
the host
surprised by the filing because you didn't expect it, which we've seen. And then you come in and you're to meet with someone and you're a total wreck. Maybe you've gone through all the preparation, emotional preparation yourself, and you walk through the door to start the process from a position that you think is stable and ready. And, you know, so your starting point, your process is going to be different. You could think you have it all under control, but then something's going to happen. Something's going to trigger you. Something, maybe it's a house, maybe it's an item of furniture. Maybe it's a text message that you just read. Maybe it's a TV show that you just watched that flashed you back to some, you know, ideal time in your marriage. I mean, you can't expect to be anywhere. You just have to be where you are, and you have to accept where you are, and you have to have the, you know, support system to help you through it. And like you said, Karen, the means to identify what's going on inside of you. So,
I think too, it's important to know too, you know, the emotions you have when you start it might be completely different, and probably will be throughout the process. Things are going to change, and there's going to, like you said, there's going to be things that are thrown at you, or, you know, whether it's a text or something that, you know, maybe your attorney tells you, or something, you know, your real estate agent tells you, or your financial person, that stirs up whatever this emotion is. So no, it's not just we're going to deal with it in the beginning. This is throughout the whole process. You're going to be dealing with it.
Oh yeah, we've seen plenty. I'm saying we, and when I say we, I refer to Karen and me, just because we worked together for so many years. So when I say we, that's usually what it means. But we have seen plenty of situations where our client was ready to move through this process, and they were done. And just get it done, just get this final paperwork done. And then when they're signing that final piece of paper, or when they get that order from the court saying that you're divorced, they crash.
Yep.
So
I had that
you never know.
situation happened, and I think it's important to share stories, because it's all the stuff you can't prepare for divorce. You can't even. Before we got onto this call, Rachel made a joke. She goes, "I'm not prepared for life. What are you talking about? A grown adult." But when you start getting into the space, you know that the marriage isn't going to work. You know that no matter what you do or pray for or hope for, counseling and all the things you've tried, you're realizing that the answer is divorce. There's no way to really prepare. But I'll tell you, when I went through mine, I didn't know mediation was going to take me 9 hours. At the end of 9 hours, my voice was tired. I was crying. The mediator told me that I should just stay with him. And I remember thinking, am I doing the wrong thing? Who do I call? What do I do? How do I do this? And I remember just being so overwhelmed. And so this podcast comes from the fact that we've all been through a little bit, and not just to share stories for fear, but to share stories that maybe someone will share something that's a nugget that helps you be strong enough to get through the step that you're on. And so as you go through the emotional things, we can't cover everything. And so you'll kind of notice we're trying to do a high level. And then every month that we meet, we'll talk about things and get a little more in depth as much as we can. I'm going to go to the next slide. So the initial information gathering, this is going to be you, Nate. So we'll let you take this one over.
Sure. Yeah. I gotta start with, this is, I don't even like to say the word ideal, but and it's all going to come from my frame of reference. If someone walks through my door and sits down at my conference table and says, I'm getting a divorce, what do I do? Okay. This all comes from that perspective. Everybody's on this panel will have different perspectives, but the simple answer is the more information, and we'll get into the specifics, but the more information that you can provide me earlier, and the earlier in the process, the more we can do. You walk in and you go through this list of items and you take copious notes today, or whatever, detailed notes, and you walk through the door, and we sit at a conference table and we have a conversation about the divorce and what's going to happen, and how property is going to be divided, and is there going to be spousal maintenance, is there going to be child support, what's the parenting plan going to be. If the more information I have, the more information I can give you at that initial meeting. That being said, you can't let a lack of information prevent you from walking through the door. So this is not me saying to you, you better gather all this information before you come in and see me. It is, the more information, the better. And this is the type of information that we're going to be asking for and that we're going to be needing. And frankly, it's all going to come out through the divorce process anyway. So that being said, on this list, we've got parenting, we've got division of marital assets, we've got spousal support, child support, division of debts. Okay, I'm going to kind of table the parenting issues for a few slides. Karen and I will talk about that. That is preparation in and of itself. But so for this purpose, I'll focus on the financial components. So within the divorce process, here's my initial consultation spiel. Within the divorce process in the state of Colorado, we look, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere else. We look at the division of property. We look at the issues of support, and that can be spousal maintenance, alimony, and it can be child support. Property includes anything that you can attach a dollar value to, asset or a debt. So any bit of information that you can provide, that you can gather, that you can learn for yourself, gives you more knowledge, gives your attorney more knowledge, and helps you through the process. So what does that mean? That means that to prepare, and I think, quite honestly, this helps with Brandy as well, and Rachel, and certainly Karen. So what does that mean? That's right here, division of marital assets, property, vehicles, investments, retirement accounts. If you can get a working knowledge of everything that you have in your marriage, asset and debt wise, that's fantastic. That's what you need. So that would mean you can start off with tax returns. You can start off with bank statements. You can start off with investment account statements. You can start off with, and then you can have retirement account statements. Not only yours, but you have individual accounts, obviously yours, but if your spouse has individual accounts, see if you can get access to that. What's your income? What's your spouse's income? That's information we can gather from tax returns. You can bring in pay stubs, because pay stubs have a lot of information, relevant information as well. But when you're dividing property, what you have to do is you have to identify those items of property, you have to attach a value to them, and then we're going to talk about a little bit later, you're going to throw those all on a spreadsheet, and you're going to reduce your assets and debts to a spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet's going to identify what it is. It's going to have a value attached to it, and it's going to have a debt attached to it, and therefore a net value. And what we do is we allocate those in husband and wife's columns, or spouse and spouse columns. How do you deal with each of those assets? There are tax issues. You're looking at investment accounts, you have to consider capital gains. If you're looking at retirement accounts and you need access to funds, you have to look at early withdrawal penalties and income tax and all that stuff. So the more information that we have, the better. So yeah, that kind of covered everything just very generally, but the income is particularly relevant for purposes of determination of spousal maintenance and child support. Yeah, I had so many thoughts. It's so hard to kind of narrow them down. I mean, the simple answer is bring as much as you can.
And sometimes that's nothing. I know in my divorce, I didn't have most of this information. And again, like you said before, Nate, don't make that stop you from making the appointments and coming in and talking to people. We're here to help you get it.
No, as you know, the process itself requires it.
Yeah.
When you file for divorce in Colorado, you have 42 days to provide the other party with certain mandatory financial disclosures, and that's pretty much what you see on this list. So whatever state of knowledge you have when you walk through the front door, it's all going to come out eventually. But to work through the process efficiently and to give yourself and your attorney the best chance of coming up with the most appropriate resolution, division of property, requires all this detailed information. And you would need to talk with somebody like Brandy to make the decision. Well, do I want the house with the equity, or do I want the investment account with the cash? Do I want the retirement accounts? Or is it best to take the money that's sitting in the bank account? So, because there are implications with each of those decisions. Attorneys can guide you, but better to have experts come in and say these are the tax effects, or this is, these are the issues that we need to look at. What do you
Have we seen it before where somebody doesn't remember they had a certain account, and as they're going through this process of gathering stuff, they remember, oh, I had a 401 in my job when I was 23 years old. Randy, you probably run into that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Well, and there is a question in the chat, Nathan, that I think is important, is how does one spouse handle the disclosure of documents if the other spouse was the primary handler of all the financial info in a marriage? And we can answer it at the end, or if you want to answer it now, you totally up to you.
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
Okay.
I'm easily distractible, so I'll have to be reading better. But whatever, that's fine. I actually do better with answering questions than just sitting here reading off of my notes. So, okay, let me look at that question again. Okay, how does one spouse handle the disclosure of documents if the other spouse was the primary handler of all the financial information in the marriage? Obviously, maybe it's not obviously. It's obvious to me, certainly obvious to Karen. I'm sure that's a frequent occurrence. And that's why Karen emphasized it, and I emphasized it earlier, and I'll emphasize it again. Even if you don't have one scrap of paper to walk through the door with, or don't let that prevent you from walking through the door, and don't let it prevent you from filing for divorce if you truly do need a divorce. The process itself requires the disclosure of information. General, that's 3 years worth of tax returns, 3 months worth of pay stubs, current bank statements, current investment account statements, retirement account statements, current debt statements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So even if you don't know, that information is going to come out. Of course, the initial disclosures are based on some measure of trust. Everybody is supposed to fully disclose without even being asked to fully disclose. We don't know that doesn't happen all the time. But the first step is to go through those initial disclosures. There are ways to gather additional information beyond that. Benefit of receiving the initial disclosure. Randy, you were touching on this, or Karen, you were touching on this. I can look at a bank statement and I can see last 4 digits of account numbers where money is transferred to. I can see last 4 digits of account numbers where money is transferred from. Same thing with brokerage accounts, same thing with retirement accounts. You can see there's a lot of things that can be discovered with those initial disclosures. And there are methods to dig deeper. Those are the discovery rules. And so, the hope, of course, is that everybody's forthcoming and they disclose and you have all the accurate information, but it doesn't always happen.
Doesn't. And there's ways around it. I mean, and I'll give an example. In my marriage, I was a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. We built a lot of businesses, but there was a lot of money being hidden. And we had to hire someone to come in and do a business review and figure out where all that money was going, which was very helpful. It was costly, but it was very helpful to be able to have that information and feel like I wasn't shooting in the dark, because I didn't bring in the money, I didn't do the taxes, I didn't run the bank accounts. I paid the bills, but that's about it. I got an allowance to pay the bills. And so, and you'll see this, Rhonda, when oftentimes you'll see one spouse doesn't do the money and the other spouse is the money maker, and you'll see things being hidden. But to Nate's point, there's ways to get it put out there. That sworn financial statement is a court-ordered document, and you will be in contempt of court if you don't offer it. So very important that that's known.
And that sworn financial statement is, you said it's an important document. It's unbelievably important. Like the spreadsheet, the property division spreadsheet, the sworn financial statement is one document that is supposed to be an accurate representation of each person's entire financial life, from their income down through the withholdings and the other deductions from pay to monthly expenses, from housing to vehicles to medical and other miscellaneous expenses. It'll have a list of your assets. It'll have a list of your debts. The idea being we have one document that we can refer to resolve all the issues except for parenting in your case.
Some of
And
parenting.
some of parenting, yes, that helps with child support. But yeah, so figuring all of that out and getting that down, it will happen, and the earlier the better. But
And just a note, during this time, this might also be a good time to chat with me, in that I can pull a preemptive title to make sure that there aren't any surprises that come up, like various liens against the home, such as child support lien, tax lien, this lien, various liens. Because the last thing we want is for them to say, oh yeah, you get to keep the house, but oh, that $200,000 you think you have in equity, you actually don't have any because of these liens.
And I'll say I recommend that for all my divorce clients. I have called Rachel specifically and said, hey, can you just pull the records on the house? Let's make sure there's no surprises. And that does become part of our negotiating power, right? If he's done some or she's done some crazy things on the house and there's a $30,000 charge, that might be more that you take from the 401k. So yeah, good point, Rachel. I love that you added that there. This one I'm going to talk about organizing your financial picture. I came from a place, and I'll just kind of talk about my story a little bit because it's important to understand we're all coming from different places, but I came from the place, and I said that I wasn't I was paying the bills. I knew how to get us out of debt. I knew how to do all the things and raise the kids and go grocery shopping and all that stuff. But when I came down to it and I went through said divorce, I didn't have access. We didn't even have a 401k, but I didn't have access to the financial stuff. I didn't have access to his secret accounts. I didn't have access to his business accounts. I didn't have access to a lot of things. So to gather everything, which Nathan has talked about, Karen has even touched on, but knowledge is your greatest protection, right? And so this whole podcast today is about contemplating divorce. So maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe you're not sure that you want to do it. Maybe it's you're 50-50. But even wherever you are in that process, if that is something you've thought about, that you're not walking happily in a marriage that you're going to fight through, and you know that it's at the end, start gathering the information. I can't say it enough, because what does happen, and back to what Karen was talking about, is you're going to get stuck in emotional overwhelm. And decision-making overload is what I called it. That I couldn't at one day, I remember I couldn't decide what to feed my kids. I couldn't decide what shoes to wear. I couldn't decide if I wanted to get out of bed. I just was so overwhelmed. And so going into a financial space that I wasn't prepared for, and funny, I'm in the financial space now, but this is what preempted it. It was me going, okay, I have no income. I have, I might have worked at the airport, and I might have done some college scouting, and I might have coached my kids' soccer, and I was getting little pays how I could work around my kids' lives. But I didn't know his income. He was self-employed. I didn't know how much he was getting on rent on the building he owned. I didn't know how much money he was getting from investors. I didn't know all the things that happen. And so as you're looking to go through divorce, and at the end of this, we're going to have some of our divorce people that have some suggestions on what to prepare for. But start right now. There's no question that you're getting a divorce. Start going through the file cabinets. Start logging into things. If he leaves his computer open, I found most of my stuff because he'd leave his computer open and he'd go fall asleep on the couch. Well, I'd run down and I'd print stuff out. And I'm not saying be deceitful, but I'm saying be deceitful. If I can say it that way, you have to gather information, and you have to take care of you and your family. Because at the end of the day, what I see women do, and I see it more in women than men, not to say it's just one gender, but I see it more often in women, is women are so busy raising their kids, and they're like, I just want to be done. It doesn't matter. And they give up things they shouldn't give up. Real estate. This is where Rachel comes in. Do you know how much you owe on your house? Do you know who the mortgage is through? Have you paid the house off? Is there a lien on the house? Is there any other real estate? Wait, say it again, Rachel.
Are the payments current? Are the payments current?
Right. Are you up to date? Are you in the hole? Other assets, retirement. Retirement's a big one. If you don't know what's going into his 401k, that is a marital asset. You will split that in many states. And of course, I'm in Colorado. Many of us are in Colorado. But what I'll tell you is whatever those assets are, typically it's a 50-50 split, but whatever, and you'll have to talk to your attorney about that, so I can't tell you that. But as you're starting to get those together, get the statements, get the bank accounts, all the things that Nate said. What other investments do you have? I see many people that have RSUs, stock options, employee stock option plans. I see Harbor, employment plans, and all of these, there's different tax consequences for these. So as you gather these documents, when I'm looking at them and I'm meeting with someone to start building that financial plan for post-divorce, those things help me to guide you to go, hey, you know what, if you had a choice between the house and the 401k, I'm going to tell you to go with the 401k, and here's why. Or it might be better for you to stay in the house. You have 2 disabled children that need to have, so it might be better to take this other house and have him, so there's just things that we'll talk about. But liabilities. If your ex has $400,000 in school debt, right, you don't want to split that. But there's things that you need to know. Get those statements. What credit cards do you have? What credit cards does he have? What loans do you have? Did you borrow money from a family member? That's one of the things that's come up in some of the divorces that I've dealt with, is that, oh, now you borrowed the money, you didn't tell me about it, and now you're trying to get me to pay for half of it. These are things you have to be aware of, and I know it feels overwhelming, but it's really important to start just gathering. And you're still going to find that you're not going to find out everything. And I'm just going to say this to you. Sometimes you have to let some things go. But other times, as much as you are in control of it, as much as you have access to the file cabinet, as much as you have access to these documents, make copies, take photos, find a way, put them in a special place on your phone. Do you guys know with an Apple phone, you can click scan in the notes section and it does a scan feature? You can scan them and send them directly to your attorney, your coach, whoever's your tribe, and get it and then delete it so you don't ever get caught. Because we know we deal a lot with, domestic violence and getting afraid of those things. Monthly expenses, fixed versus variable. The budget. Oftentimes what I will do with clients is we're going to sit down and go, okay, let's figure out what your pre-divorce budget is. What are y'all living on now? And then let's figure out what your post-divorce budget is. This is where, America doesn't budget. You don't learn it in school. Your parents don't know how to do it. We used to do checking books, and we would kind of, write our balances in there. Nobody does that anymore. So what we're noticing is that people are getting charged 5 times for streaming. We're getting, we're paying, an extra $40 for something we're not getting anymore. And when I can narrow down and realize, oh, hey, Rachel, maybe we shouldn't spend $250 a month on Starbucks. But that starts helping you to realize, I wasn't really speaking to you, but that starts helping.
You read my mind.
That starts helping you to realize, like, what is frivolous spending? Where can we cut back? Can we get discounts on your car insurance or your homeowners insurance? Can we search some things out? So those monthly expenses are key, and that's where Nathan's saying get those bank statements, because we can see what you're getting paid on. The other thing that doesn't get brought up often, and it's hard to split in court, but travel miles. If one spouse travels a lot, that's one thing. Get the statements. It's something that can be a negotiating power. It's hard to split because they're hard to split. The companies that you get them from, they're not really divorce friendly, but it does become a negotiating power. If you have favorite things, like there's inheritance that comes in, if there's an inheritance put in a joint account, it becomes marital property. If it's in a separate account, it is not marital property if it's an inheritance. So there's things that you need to know as you navigate this. Pro tip, track every account with the last 4 digits and current balance, and we will put that in a spreadsheet. And if you're not good at spreadsheets, which is also very common in America, that's what I do. I help you with that. Find a financial professional to help you. Find a friend who's good at spreadsheets. But we'll do a marital balance spreadsheet. This one is go ahead.
I was just going to say there was a question that came up about debts. A good place to find. We often do this in just about every case, but a good starting point for debts is pulling credit reports.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Good. When they're against the house, oftentimes the title company wants that request to come from a realtor. Not always, but often. And I have a pretty good working relationship with a couple of title companies. that when I tell them, hey, I need this, they usually send it over to me within a day or two.
Oh, that's good.
Send what over within a day or two?
The title report to see if
Title.
there's liens against it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so protect yourself financially. Um, you still have to talk about it. One of the things that we'll have, and in a domestic violence case, this would be a so different conversation than if you're just getting divorced and you agree on everything, right? If you're going through something difficult, you might want to have money put away with a friend or with your parents. You're going to have to put a retainer down for an attorney, especially if it's a domestic violence case, because you need protection. You need someone to work with you on that. So get a personal checking account, getting a savings account in your own name, stuff that is not touchable by anyone else. Don't even let them know where the bank account is.
And Brandy, just something that I would like to touch on with that. And this is not to scare anyone, but this is just something that happened with my divorce. My ex and I, before we even filed, he closed down all of our bank accounts that were joint, and I could not access them. Thankfully, I had taken $2,000 and I had put it into my own account that I had just created because I felt like things were about to get hairy. And sure enough, they did. And I had opened that account on Saturday. On Monday, he closed everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's good wisdom. And I agree, not scare making, but be prepared, right? Back to what Nathan said, monitor your credit score. That you can pull a credit report for you and your spouse before the divorce is final. And I did do that. I did look to see what was on there, and that helped me a ton. Track all marital spending, document shared expenses for the past year, understand your tax situation. This is one of the areas that I see if the man does if one spouse, I won't say man versus woman, but if one spouse does all the tax preparation, the thing I just met with a client today, as a matter of fact, that went, oh gosh, I was, separated for 12 years. And all those years, he was filing head of household, and I was losing that tax return because he was getting a $26,000 or whatever the tax credit was for being married, and she was getting nothing. And no one ever told her that. So getting a tribe is really important, that you get some of these things answered that you just don't know. You can't always rely on ChatGPT. Although we're tempted, it gives some poor information, especially in the law area. Okay, so understand the tax situations. If you can find those tax returns, you should have been signing them, so you should have a copy. If you're working towards divorce, download those copies and keep your own file, right? Close joint accounts carefully, and I would say don't close anything right away. Leave it as is, but just start putting money in other places. One of the things that my clients will do if they're having to kind of hide money, they'll go to the grocery store, they'll buy their groceries, but they pull out $100 cash every time. So although their grocery bill's going up, sometimes the spouse isn't watching that, and you can kind of start $100 at a time, putting it aside. Have it in a boot in your closet, a stinky boot that no one will look in if you need cash. But there's ways around making it a fight or getting yourself into a bad place. Do you guys want to add anything to this one that I haven't covered?
That's such a difficult issue from a legal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There are things you can do before filing, and there are things you can do after filing. And yeah, not to scare people, but Randy, you're right. To the extent that you can do things before you start your case to secure yourself financially in a situation where that needs to happen, go ahead and do it. Don't dissipate. Don't spend money, because you'll be asked at some point to account for what you took. But if you need to do it, you need to do it. The issue that we encounter in the divorce case once it's filed is obviously everybody's fully aware of what's going on. So your ability to access funds that the other person has control of and doesn't want you to have access to is very difficult. Mm-hmm. You can get relief from a court, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a lot of time.
And sometimes you go really hungry during that time. So have rich friends. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
It's a helpless situation on this side, on my side, to see that and to raise as big a stink as you can and have a judge not particularly care much, and certainly have an opposing party and his or her attorney not care much. It's a bad feeling to have, and it's pretty helpless. And at the end of the day, at the end of the case, when you're accounting for that and you're explaining it to the judge, oftentimes, everything gets equalized at that point. But man, a lot of time passes before that happens. So
Yeah.
And there's a question in the chat. How do you handle personal property assets?
and
Give-
by I
Yeah,
guess
what do you mean by personal property? Give more of a detail on that one.
in general, I would look at personal property as furniture, household goods, other items particular to the individual. So
Grandma's rocking chair, dining room table.
yeah. So
Okay.
how do you handle it's the second answer I'm going to give. The first answer is, it doesn't matter what it is. If you can attach a dollar value to it, it is property, and it's property that's subject to allocation within the divorce. That being said, I've never met one judge who wants testimony about the value of grandma's rocking chair.
Yes.
So it is dealt with. It is dealt with as part of the divorce. The ideal solution for everybody is the two people who are divorcing get along enough that they can say, I'm going to take this, you're going to take that.
Right.
But that being said, you can hire somebody to come in and attach a garage sale value or estate sale value to every item of property. You can present that to a judge and you can get it divided.
Well, and what I'll say from a very low level, when I watch families that are in a good space, like husband and wife that are realizing marriage isn't going to work, but they're not trying to kill each other or ruin each other's lives, oftentimes that stuff becomes non-issues. The cello, you know what? Nobody cares. Just split it and take it, and you're going to walk away no matter what. It's divorce is like putting two paper plates together, gluing them together, and when you take them apart, part of you goes with them and part of them goes with you. It's just the way it is. You can't avoid it completely. So some things you have to kind of value in your head and go, how important is grandma's rocking chair? And is he doing it just to make me mad? And is it one of those things that maybe I just let go of? Or is it something you have to fight for and you're willing to give up part of your 401k? Right? That's really what it comes down to. And and that's that decision-making overload. You start getting to the place that some of that stuff doesn't matter. And actually, you'll notice that as clients go through tough divorces, that stuff it just kind of disappears. It becomes a non-issue at some point. Okay, who's on the children? We have about 9 minutes to keep going, and I do have some people at the end I'd like to talk. So, Nathan, add that if you want to, and then let's go into this portion.
No, I was just going to say, what you just said goes back to what Karen was saying at the beginning, and being emotionally in a good spot when you're going through this. Because if you're not in an in a good spot and you make decisions based on an emotion, that gets expensive.
Yeah.
So that's all I would say.
Okay, and we're gonna fly through the children stuff because we don't want to there's so many things that could go with children. We want to give you something to think about, how to prepare. Their well-being is always a priority. And Karen, I feel like you can speak to this in a big way about how do you deal with the kids, because sometimes they become the fight between the mom and the dad or that kind of stuff. So go into that.
So
The most harmful stuff we see.
Oh,
yeah.
People always will say, I'm not going to put the kids in the middle. I have a news flash for everybody out there. Somehow, some way, they usually end up in the middle. Even at the best times, the best divorces where people are getting along, it affects everyone. I can't say that enough. It affects your children. It affects your family, your extended family, your friends, your community. It affects everyone. The kid thing, I think we're doing a meeting on later on in a couple of months.
Yeah.
At which I will scream from the rooftops. But At this point, if you're contemplating divorce, start thinking about what schedule works well for you. The court's not going to argue if the two of you come up with a parenting plan that's a little wonky because somebody works nights or whatever the situation might be. The better plan is the one that mom and dad are going to come up with together. The court doesn't really care, to be honest with you, who gets who when. They're just going to be left with dividing the time and allowing parenting time, and that's just to be done. They don't know your children, they don't know you. So the more you can kind of think about what is a better schedule for your kids to be on now, helps with more of the decisions later down the road. Again, we already said it. Don't put them in the middle. It happens. They're not your confidant. They're not your emotional support. They should know nothing about it. Nate and I cringe on a daily basis when people say, I told my kids. The minute I hear that, I can't breathe. Again, we'll get into more details of that, and that's super important conversation. Maintain routines as much as you possibly can. Try to keep the same routine, with the kids so they're not feeling anxiety or anything like that. The communication through co-parenting apps, if it's necessary, there are apps out there. We'll again talk about that later on. My Family Wizard, Talking Parents, those kind of things. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for. Don't necessarily everyone needs those. Some people do. But again, that's something we'll touch on later on.
Well, can I just have to add,
Oh, did someone have a question?
no, that was me in an echo.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what that was. In any court appearance that you're in front of a judge where you're talking to a judge about a parenting plan. And it could be, we need to go to a hearing because we can't reach an agreement. The judge is going to say, that's fine. You can sit in front of me for 8 hours and you can try and tell me your whole life and try and tell me what's best for your child. And I'll do my best in making that determination. But the reality is that the two parents know what's best for their child. The two parents know, in general, there's exceptions, of course, but in general, the two parents know what affects the children positively or negatively. And the disputes that we see more often than not in these situations are when the parents aren't focused on the children, but they're focused on themselves and their needs with respect to the children. So to prepare in contemplation of divorce, where you're going to deal with children, prepare to remove yourself from the equation and prepare to focus on what your children need. And if you're focused on what your children need, you can figure out that parenting plan. Yeah. You can figure out how to communicate. Can we communicate directly or do we have to go through talking parents? You can figure out how to make decisions together. Can we sit down and have a coffee together or do we have to do it via text message, So withdrawing yourself and your interests, selfish interests, and focusing on your children's interests, understanding that barring the crazy situation, children love both parents and they want to have contact with both parents and they're made up of both parents. And so any criticism you give to the other parent is basically criticizing half of them.
Oh,
so yeah, that's good.
It's that's it. That's how you prepare. That's how I would say, please prepare that way.
I think I've seen it a million times. People can dissolve a marriage and still keep a relationship that's healthy for the children. It's not they don't have to be best friends, but they're cordial to each other. It happens. It can be done. We've seen it a million times.
Sure.
So I'm going to stop here for just a second because one of the things there is someone on the call that I talked to her and said, "Is there if there was something you'd like to tell someone?" And it's not going to fit with the slide, but for her, what do you wish you would have known, or someone would have told you, or you would have done differently? Kind of talk about that, Kelly, if you can. I know you're in the car, but you and I talked earlier yesterday, I think, and that was something that you would have liked to have information on. So share that if you can.
Yeah, I think there's so much I wish I knew, but I would say the biggest thing is that as much as you try to be not emotional, you are going to be emotional and you are going to be a mess. So I wish I'd been more organized. So helping that just felt so overwhelming to me. So having a friend help you create a system that is easy for you to add documents as you get them, for you to document evidence, or if you're screenshotting text messages, email folders that of communication that's going back and forth between your ex, depending on how volatile it is that I wish I'd had that all organized more, and I just did not have the capability to do it with everything that was coming at me. That your friends can help in ways like that, or bring a friend to your lawyer so that there's a second set of ears hearing everything. There's some real logistical things that friends can help you on, that you just can't handle when you're going through it all.
That's good. That's really good.
I think
And
that's.
go ahead, Nate.
I'm just going to say, in some circumstances where you have some significantly harmful events occurring, and you have, I'll just call that person the perpetrator, who is very skilled at manipulation and who has a very, who really can make something significant seem minor. Gathering evidence, like you were just saying, Kelly, is unbelievably important. You can say your side of the story, the other person can say their side of the story. The judge is not going to know who to believe because you're both going to come across as credible. So gathering that evidence, we can say gather bank statements, we can say gather tax returns, but gathering text messages, getting the right application, like iMazing, for example, to download text conversations for the last 5 years. Those are the types of things that will help in those awful circumstances.
Well,
Yeah, so if a friend can help you organize all that, like I
Yeah.
found myself just taking screenshots and then they just live somewhere in my photos, and scrolling back because they just didn't have a system set up from the beginning that would have been really helpful. And I know friends would have helped me, figure out a way to do that. I just didn't even know what to ask for.
Yeah.
right.
Well,
Well,
and that's part of why building your tribe
Yeah.
is so important.
That's exactly what I was going to say right there. And we're a little bit over the hour. We're about 2 minutes over. Here's a few. We're going to have different
We're like
people.
5 minutes late, so we're good.
We're going to have different people speak to like different things as we go through these topics. But these are the ones that we had today, right? And we want you to always think about. I love what Kelly said. And I remember watching Kelly go through this, and there were days. And can I use this, Kelly? Do you mind that?
Oh yeah, you can share. I'm an open book. Yeah.
There were days she literally was going to rip her hair out, and there were days she was shaking so hard she couldn't breathe, and there were days where she was so put together that I'm like, "Girl, did you take Valium?" Like there were
no, it's just like an out of body experience. Those were
going through the emotions, but I
not
do remember.
regular.
I remember her going, I have this friend that sat down with me, and that is part of your tribe. It's not always about the professionals. Yes, get the professionals so you get the right information, but get the tribe of people. And this is important to talk about: the friends that are going to love you in your good and your bad. Not the friends who are going to go and tell everybody your business, right? But the friends who will hold your hand and love you, because that's just who you guys are. Be selective of those people.
And your tribe isn't always who you think it's going to be. My tribe did not end up who maybe I would have handpicked from the beginning. So I don't know. let people show you who they are, and that tribe will start forming, but it may not be exactly who you think it's going to be.
Right. That's a good point.
And be prepared to lose friends as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of that emotional preparation. And being okay with starting with new friends. And I love, Kelly, that's a great call out. How do you know who is the right person? Well, it helps to have a divorce coach to kind of go, hey, let me help you make logical decisions, not based on emotion. Then when you start getting a little healthy there, then you start picking people for you that you maybe wouldn't have picked before, right? That you're starting to break down and build yourself back up, which is creating a new beginning, right? So divorce is not just a legal event. It's a turning point. It's the beginning of your next chapter. And if we can help anyone get through this, we want you to know that there's life after divorce. It doesn't have to be the thing that shuts you down and ruins you, and it becomes where you're always negative and blah blah blah. I've watched some people go through where they're shutting down and it's miserable, but they don't get stuck there. And so having that tribe where you can kind of dump it on them a little bit and then go away and love your kids well again is very, very helpful. And then with the right team, the right information, the right mindset, you can navigate this transition with clarity and confidence. All of our panel today is going to put their information in the chat in case you want their information. We had planned to put it on the slide, but we failed. So we introduced them at the beginning. We are recording this so we can send it out. But here's what's coming up. Did somebody have something to say?
No, I goofed.
Oh, okay. That's all right. So this one is, are you contemplating divorce? And guys, what I'm going to say, those of you that are on this call, please invite people that you know that are going through it. It's not to put people on the spot. It's not to make you uncomfortable. You don't even have to have your name on the slide, and you don't have to speak. You can stay anonymous. The biggest thing that we're wanting to do is just give the information. And as we have different people coming out to talk, we know that I may not be the right financial person for you. I might drive you crazy, and that's okay. We'll have other financial people come and talk. We'll have other attorneys. We'll have other, coaches and real estate agents and mortgage specific people. But we're going to start talking about a lot of that. But here are the things that are coming up. Those of you that have registered for this, we have your email address. We'll send out the link again. But it's the same link that you got on this one with. You can sign up for all of them. Try to get to as many as you can. And we're so excited that you guys were here tonight. Sorry, went a little bit over, but next week is about building your tribe. It's going to be a good one. Feel free to reach out to any of the people that were on tonight if that's something that you need. And
Not next week.
I'm sorry, next time, which will be May 14th. Yeah, come on, guys. May 14th is our next one. And so, yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, we'll hopefully see you guys there. Any last questions or comments before we call it a night?
Thank you, Jen and Rhonda. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
And by the way, this slide is wrong. It says the third Wednesday. It is on Thursdays, and it's from 7 to 8 Mountain Time. So
We're a train wreck.
We're gonna at the end of the day, if that's the worst we do, we're in good shape. But we'll send it. We'll send it out to you guys. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.